It's Thursday, September 10th, 2020. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Really quickly, I want to remind all of you to please come over to my Patreon channel. I just uploaded a new video yesterday. If you're not a member, if you're having a hard time finding it, just go to my website. I have a link down below, jeremiahbabe.com. Go to the website. You will see a Patreon link. Click on it. It will take you right to the Patreon channel. There, I can speak a little bit more openly and freely to what is happening in this country. And I want to thank everybody who's already come over. Thank you so much for the support. Remember, I could not do all of this without your help. So to everybody that's come over, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into what is happening today. Things are going absolutely bananas here in America. Weekly jobless claims miss estimates as employment gains taper. We got the unemployment claims for last week. They came in at 884,000. This is 93,000 more than the previous week. And this is a major red flag. We are bleeding jobs in America. You know, the television and the politicians tell us how everything is coming back, this V-shaped recovery, everything's going back to normal. I don't know what they mean by normal because things haven't really been normal for a very, very long time. This economy hasn't been normal. We can go back to 2008 when the whole thing imploded. It has not been fixed. It has not been repaired since 2008. All we have done is put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. We have been papering over this whole collapse since 2008 with tons of artificial injections, 0% interest rates, and here we are today where we are bleeding nearly 1 million jobs a week for 25 weeks, yet they're telling us how everything is going back to normal and how everything is recovering. That is the farthest thing from the truth. Wolfstreet.com today, unemployment crisis going in wrong direction. No doubt. Continued unemployment claims rise for the second week to 29.6 million, meaning 18.4% of the labor force is unemployed. Remember, when we look at this number of 18.4%, 29.6 million people, this is not everybody. This does not include people who have rolled off unemployment, people who aren't eligible for unemployment, people who've come out of school who haven't found a job. It's not including the people who've been forced to take on two to three part-time jobs just to make ends meet. These people don't count. It doesn't take into consideration people who've had to take major wage cuts just to bring home a paycheck. People are really suffering out there. CNBC today, 1 in 10 Americans are struggling to afford enough food amid crisis. 22.3 million Americans reported that sometimes or often they didn't have enough to eat. You go back to 2019, only about 3.7% of Americans reported that sometimes or often they didn't have enough food. Just look at how much damage has been done just in the last year. I was reading an article on The Hedge today, Apocalypse on Broadway. It should have really been Escape from New York. This looks like a apocalyptic movie. There's a video on this page. This doesn't even look like America at this point. It looks really like it's out of a movie. Everything is shut down. More than 300 storefronts are now vacant along Broadway. It marks a 78% increase from 3 years ago. And we're seeing this in cities all over the country. Rent is too high. I'm seeing it right here in my area. Rent's too high. We're seeing way too much violence, too much lawlessness out there. And this economy is absolutely dying, literally dying right before our very eyes. So this is just killing these retailers. Everything is boarded up. According to this article, it says everything is boarded up in Manhattan. Why aren't we seeing this on television? This mayor, de Blasio, he has really had a big hand in the destruction of New York. And we could say that about mayors in Portland, Chicago, and all over the country. They have really had a big hand in destroying their own cities. But looking at these storefronts, and if you get a chance, check out the article, there's a video on it, and it is just store after store boarded up. Unbelievable. It's really, really sad to see the condition America is in right now, and what's happening in New York, what's happening in places like Chicago, Los Angeles. I mean, 80,000 people homeless in Los Angeles, thousands sleeping in their cars. It's just unbelievable, the deterioration of America and how far down we've gone just over the last few years. The stock market is no doubt detached from economic reality, and there is, in my humble opinion, a major reckoning coming, not just to America, but to Wall Street. This president, and I'm not going to sit here and criticize the president today. I think he's done some very good things, but there are some things, and I'm going to hold him accountable. He needs to cut and end this obsession with the stock market. Last week, he tweeted, the Dow Jones just closed above 29,000. Last month, he said that we have the greatest economy in the world. Today, Dow Jones down 405 points. We lost another 884,000 jobs. And we have to realize that if stocks were the measure of economic health, things would be looking good, but they're not, because people don't live in the stock market. They live in reality. They live on Main Street. We have never seen such a detachment between Wall Street and Main Street. The stock market is not the economy. The economy is production and it is jobs. And there are major shortfalls in virtually every sector. So how come the stock market is so resilient with all the negative economic news that we're seeing? Stocks are overwhelmingly owned by the top 1%. This means speculation can continue even as more people have lost their jobs. Measures such as the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, reflect only the very largest U.S. companies, which can weather steep slumps in demand. Remember, they're the ones that get bailouts. You don't, I don't, many small businesses don't, but the big corporations on Wall Street do. They get the bailouts. They're in the front line, where Main Street and the small business owner, they're in the back of the line. And don't forget, the Fed is the buyer and lender of last resort. The Fed is not going to allow the stock market to fail, but it will fail eventually, because the Federal Reserve is playing a game that it cannot and will not win, guaranteed. So the stock market does not reflect the economy. What it does reflect is the health of the richest people among us. The top 1% of U.S. households owns 52% of equities and mutual fund shares, and the top 10% own 87%. The bottom 90% only own 13%. Look at the wealth inequality, and this is a really big concern here. The wealth inequality we're seeing in America and the opportunity inequality that we're seeing in America, on top of everything that is happening, this is a formula for disaster, and I believe we're going to see some really big things happening in America. The Fed announced in March that it would pump trillions of dollars into the financial markets by continuing its so-called quantitative easing, but that didn't trickle down to Main Street. That didn't trickle down to you and I. While people are being evicted, while people are having their cars repoed, while people are falling behind on their credit card payments, their rent payments, this whole thing is going to be a huge disaster. They are purchasing assets directly in the financial markets to support asset prices. But yet people say, they tell you and I, there's no manipulation. Do you really believe these valuations on Wall Street? This is the biggest bubble mankind has ever seen, and every bubble pops. This thing's not going to pop. It's going to explode. They have bought over $1 trillion worth of bonds from big companies, directly or indirectly, on the secondary markets. The Fed is now supporting stock prices, corporate bonds, junk bonds. Real estate trusts and private equity firms continue to borrow from the Fed at the rock bottom rates. We're not getting those kind of rates. You can't get those kind of rates. But corporate America can get those kind of rates. This may work for a while, but it is not going to save the real economy from the depression that is coming. None of this is protecting Main Street's businesses or its workers. While they prop up the markets, the economy continues to deteriorate. Businesses are going bankrupt. Individuals are going bankrupt. Renters are being evicted. We're going to see millions of people lose homes. When these forbearances expire, millions of people are going to be in very big trouble. We're going to see massive defaults in the housing market. One thing is for sure, Wall Street's day of reckoning is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we are watching the economy being devastated. But I believe in time, Wall Street will be devastated as well. Look, this whole thing is a major illusion. It's on borrowed time. The stock market is a ticking time bomb. And sooner or later, reality is going to come knocking. And Wall Street is going to have its day of reckoning. And I hope that every one of you is being very careful and very cautious out there. If you're in these markets, if you're making money, I really hope that you're buying assets. The problem is too many people get greedy. They're going to stay in these markets a second too long, and they're going to take a massive haircut and they're going to get wiped out. The music will come to an end. There will not be enough exits. There will not be enough buyers for the sellers. We are going to see, I believe, one of the biggest crashes in U.S. history in housing, in the stock market, in commercial real estate. We are going to see the biggest depression in world history. It's going to be global. No one will be immune from it. This is why I make these videos, to continue to remind every one of you to continue preparing. Do not get complacent. The news media loves to tell us how everything is doing great, how everything's going to be fine. You know darn well things are not normal. They're not doing great. There's going to be no recovery. The recovery is many years away. We haven't even seen the fallout or the ramifications from these shutdowns, from all this money printing, from all this manipulation on these markets. We've got a long way to go. It's going to be a very, very harsh, devastating depression. It's going to be a long-lasting depression. It's going to take many years to recover from. And if this country doesn't start producing and manufacturing, it is never going to get out of this depression. America will turn into a third world country, and that is no joke, and I'm not exaggerating. Just study history. You know, how many countries were once superpowers, had strong economies, had strong currencies, now third world countries? It's happened for thousands of years. It can happen to America. America is not immune from reality. The day of reckoning is coming to America. It's coming to Wall Street. It's coming to the housing market. It's coming to America, and it's going to be brutal. Make sure you're preparing. God bless every one of you.